And so I'm interested in like the process of yoga learning for you and the strange coincidence of you being in Bali at just the right time. Could you talk about that a little?
Well, in terms of like learning yoga, I managed to stay with the asana practice all along while I was working long hours. I just picked up the nicest looking yoga studio nearby from my office, and then I was practicing regularly. But I always thought there's more to it. I wanted to know more, like what's philosophy behind, and maybe the energy work that I practice must be related to yoga, but nobody talks about it in the asana classes in the studios. So I'm like, oh, I wonder. But I didn't do anything about it. But then after reading that book by Mark, Yoga of Heart, I started Googling him and, oh, where can I learn from him? Like, I want to know more about him. And I found that he's holding workshops overseas, but there's no way I could have that kind of long-term leave from my work. So I'm like, oh, that's a shame, but what else can I do? And I kept looking and found this online teacher training by Mark, and I signed up for it, and I'm like, yes, this is it. I can do it from home. Yeah, that was my starting point of learning as a teacher, to become a teacher. I didn't really want to be a teacher. I just wanted to know more about, yoga. And then after I got married, I decided, okay, this is time to change my life. Let's leave the company that I was working for, leave Japan behind, and move to New Zealand, where my husband is originally from. And before moving to New Zealand, we decided to do some Asia trip. And first we went to Thailand, did lots of yoga stuff, stayed in Chiang Mai, and went to Bali. And one day we went to the yoga barn in the Ubud and saw this info board and came across this Heart of Yoga Advanced Teacher Training by Mark and Rosalind. I'm like, that's a weird coincidence. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. I should probably sign up, but I wasn't too sure because it was the day before of that starting. So I was like, oh, I don't know if they still take students, but I contacted anyway, and then they could fit me in. So I didn't plan anything, but happened to meet you and Mark in a strange universal manifestation thing.
I think it's just amazing that timing worked out so particularly. So there was so much there that was like very, very interesting. I just want to go back one step to the moment when you left. Did you find that your awareness of these invisible hierarchies of your workplace and how it was forcing you to maybe go against your body, of how it wanted to rest and its dignity and things. Did you find that as you got more and more aware of that, it kind of got to a breaking point that led to that moment of leaving?
To be honest, I could have pushed harder and I could have kept going on. So I don't know where would be the breaking point, but I was definitely feeling anxious and then, shaky all the time. It was so unhealthy. I was dealing with this technical problem with the website I was running that I wasn't the technician, so I couldn't do anything about it, but I had a constant fear of, messing things up. And as I made up my mind to leave the company and Japan, I could step back and see this was what I was going through, this hierarchy, this toxic pressure and self-denial, denial of sex as a female. Yeah, so I kind of snapped out of it and became sober and could see everything. That was horrifying to see.
Because I remember in Bali being really amazed by the clarity with which you were speaking about it. It wasn't just a vague, oh, it was bad, I'm moving on, or I was unhappy, I don't know why I'm leaving. You had a very piercing kind of insight into your participation in that culture and how you had duplicated it and how you'd been trained to duplicate it from birth, not explicitly, but just implicitly soaking up that culture like a sponge. And you described that so clearly with responsibility, but not blame, that it was, I know it was very striking and moving for everyone in the room.
Yeah, to be honest, I can't really speak with that intensity anymore because I left it all behind, digested it, and now it became blood and flesh. So it's hard to speak about it because I can't remember it anymore. But I don't blame those people or experience or culture that I was in. It's just what it is. But I feel like it was there for me, like blessing in disguise, me so much till I can't take it anymore, so that I will flip back into this spiritual outburst. So I feel thankful for the pain and unfairness I experienced in the past. Yeah.
Reminds me of Krishnamacharya saying, thank God for my suffering because it motivates me to practice. And also him saying, who can teach yoga is someone who has suffered and been had a victory in their suffering.
Definitely it was nurturing to have that experience, and now I can teach from that experience, even though I haven't had exactly what my student had. Like, it's not exactly the same. I haven't had divorce or loss of my mother yet. But I can speak in the same manner. I can be on the same page with my people. That's a gift. Yeah. And also when I was in Bali, Mark said to me after I shared my story, he said, I feel you, all that suffering, all that experience, that makes you Acharya, a teacher, and go to the world, teach your heart out, start your journey as a teacher already. You are it, you can do it. And that was really encouraging, and I felt heard, seen, and also all the people at the teacher training, all the friends were really supportive, just sitting there looking at me, listening to my story, and then giving me this energy. And it was really, it meant so much to me.
Yeah, I remember there was one person there who had a lot of experience with trainings or spiritual gatherings which explicitly avoided anybody's story as a negative thing and didn't talk about people's background or culture or anything, because there was an idea that it would be limited or something like that. And I can remember that person had a real breakthrough when they heard that you can really receive everybody's individuality and story, and it can be so beautiful and profound. It doesn't have to be an identity or an ego narrative. It's our real life and our real experiences that we've been through that have made us who we are and shaped our ability to communicate and everything. I think I've had that as well, to especially admire the way Mark is so genuinely interested in a person and really asking questions and really wanting to know about what they've been through and their experience and their perspective. Sometimes it's been like opening a window to me on a person. And before that person was just a blank, and then the window opens and wow, okay, they are so interesting. They're so fascinating.
It's ironic. We do share stories, but we don't identify ourselves with the story. As we speak, as we share the story, we're dropping the stories as well. So that was really interesting to experience and then be a witness of.
Yeah. And then we talk about it, for example, right now, we speak about it almost like for the benefit of anyone else who is going through this, because it's done for you, it's finished. You've gone through that. You don't need to talk about it to be somebody, but it is an extraordinary journey, and therefore it's exciting, inspiring, educational for anyone else who is stuck within their patterns. And like you say, it doesn't have to be literally the same as yours, but it's the principle of being conditioned by your culture into something that's compromising your soul or your deepest self. And how do we find that energy and that space to break free of that and live our own life the way we want to?
So definitely we don't speak about our past experience, especially the hard ones, just to seek attention or anything like that. But if it benefits others, we should share.
I've realized over time that these words of please go and teach your heart out are not appropriate for everybody. What you said earlier, that you never wanted to be a teacher, is very revealing, because in some ways that is what has made you a good teacher, because you didn't have some kind of career ambition to be a boss over others, to be a big guru, You weren't trying to become a teacher like an identity. And it seems that has actually enabled you to be an effective teacher in the world.
Maybe Krishnamacharya, Deshkacha, Marx says, we never call our student. We try to develop a friendship first, the mutual trust. By being intimate with that person, genuinely interested in, what's going on with your life, tell me. And we open our heart to each other, and conversation starts out of nowhere, and that becomes a teaching. I think it's a very organic way of teacher-student relationship.
Organic and respectful, very beautiful.